Hello, folks. If you were just listening to my other live, welcome back. Welcome back, Cotter. If you're net new because you're in the Libero ecosystem and so you saw I was live and figured to jump in, welcome. I can assure you this won't take long. I figured I would at least provide a surface level, not quite a swag, but at least a basic, here are my thoughts type of coverage around the launch of Libera Miner. Just to provide some context, yes, I have some money in Libera Bank. I have money in all the banks, and I tossed a little bit of the spare that I had that was just sitting doing nothing into Libera Miner so I can watch its behavior and watch the compounding and watch what it's doing. So, disclosure, yes, I'm in the ecosystem. Yes, I have some throwaway money in Libera Miner, which is all I would recommend for people. Make sure that you are only using money you can afford to lose. Not specific to Libero. It's in general cryptocurrency. Let's get in this. For those that don't know, Libera Miner launched today. And of course, it's the current fad, the current hype, the current popular, the current shiny, which is mining. Largely started by things like the BNB Miner, Drip, and some of the other projects that are out there that are doing mining type of things. And it started to get a lot of hype. And of course, the unfortunate truth is some of these projects failed because they were proven unsustainable, like Elephant Money, which is supposed to come back, but it has not yet, is my point. Drip tanked. It's supposed to come back. It has not yet. Mining, all of this is challenging. The only one to have pulled it off and still be around, at least in the Binance side, is BNB Miner. And BNB Miner has its own issues, but for the most part, it's been largely stable. Libera Miner is taking a different tact, and I'll show you the site here momentarily, but here's the breakout of what they're talking about with rewards, accumulation, compounding, taxing only on deposits and claims, and then referrals. Well, if I look at the site, right, the site is pretty basic, and everybody knows that I have my own concerns about the way that their sites work and the fact that they just jump you into things without explaining stuff. If I look, it tells you how many people are in it. This isn't a lot, 353. To put in perspective, Libero has over 150,000 holders as of last count. Libera has over 50,000 holders as of last count. So to only have 300 some odd is a bit disappointing because you have about 50,000 Libera holders. Chances are the vast majority of those are either in the DigiFinex, I doubt it, but chances are, or they're not knowing that Libera Miner is out. They did announce it on Twitter, so I know that that was communicated, but not everybody follows Twitter, especially not grown, I almost cussed, grown adults. So in the interface, the way it works is they have a lot of stack rewards, right? So if you have X Libera, you get a bonus. If you have X Libero, you get a bonus. They didn't explain the X very well, but it's a standard. Whenever you stake tokens, you're issued X of a thing. So if you know SHIB and Shiba Swap, if you stake your SHIB, you're given X SHIB. If you stake your leash, you're given X leash. If you stake your bone, you're given X bone, and so on. So this is not specific to Libero. That's a standard when they are staked tokens. That's all it means. It doesn't mean anything else other than staked. And then they add referrals on top of it. So with all this together, it is very similar to what Drip was trying to do with its ecosystem. They went a step further and they built an FAQ that's decently helpful. However, some of the information doesn't really answer the question asked. So what is the miner? They refer to it as a game. That concerns me. I know why they do, because there's a gimmick, and I'll talk about the gimmick here shortly, but I don't like that they refer to it as a game because, again, these are grown adults by and large. They talk about the percentage can be automatically changed based on players, goes back to the game concept again. Recommended strategy, talks about game. Then down, they talk about the different bonuses, compound bonuses, and then players, right? And they talk about Here's how the compounding works. Concern number one, outside of the fact that they refer to it in game terminology, is that they're making a lot of assumptions that people who are doing this are already familiar with the way mining works from other projects and other processes. That's fine. If you want to make that assumption, I think it's faulty. I think you should assume, because you should want new money outside the crypto bubble. So I would not state things in a frame that assumes that you know how the mining works. That's what I think is missing. Outside of the fact that they're doing it, I think it should be explained to the layman user. I don't think this does a good enough job of that. But then when it went to the ex Libera and ex Libero, here's where I had the other issue. The tiers that they call out. And they're initially, I assumed that they would reward anybody who had stuff staked in Libero Bank and Libera Bank, because those people have been waiting a long time to see the increase in their funds. Instead, they have these tiers. Now there's a bonus for the tiers, and they're not crazy bad, but when you look at ex Libera, which is staked Libera, the lowest tier is 2,000. So right now, as of current price, that's going to be about $2,300, $2,400. Very few people have or would put 22 to 23, however much bucks in there. It says 500 Libera staked in the bank. So here's what they did. When you stake in the pool, so this is Liberator, they give you a 5x. It's basically multiplicative. It's like 4x, 5x. So whatever you put in there gets multiplied. That's fine, but you're still paying because it's a pool. So you still have to have 500 Libera, which is about $530-ish, and then $530 of Binance USD. So you're paying about $1,000-ish to create the pool. And then it only gives you a 500 pool, and that's the lowest tier threshold. So just to get in the lowest bonus threshold possible, your minimum investment is going to be around $1,000 or greater. Again, goes to outside the crypto bubble. The vast majority of people are not putting that much money into Libera because its price movement has not justified doing so, unless if you just happen to be a so-called gambler, meaning that you suspect it'll go up there in the future. Most who are new to it are not going to put that much in there. They might put $100 or up to $500 maybe. I don't think that the bonus structure is thought out well. I would have rather said, if you have any stake in there, you're going to get something, even if it's only 0.1%, even if it's the lowest possible tier. We just ask that you're in the ecosystem and you've staked it. I might even gone a step further, because this does not, when at least as I read it, it doesn't seem to care about the duration of stake. If it doesn't care about duration, I don't know if it does or not, but if it does not, I think it's a gap, because it could allow somebody to get in, do a quick duration for whatever period of time, a month or two, and then cash out and then leave when they make $100,000. I would have, a better system might have been, we don't care how much ex Libera you have. We'll give you 0.1 at the lowest threshold. If you just have one in there, that's cool. However, we'll multiply that bonus based on how many years you have it staked in the Libera Bank. So it encourages people to be long-term staked as opposed to, the short term where they can just cheat the system. Personal opinion. So then I said, well, maybe they did better on the ex Libero, right? You got a lot of ex Libero people. They've been waiting patiently for the longest time. And then I say, for a minimum of 2 million ex Libero tokens. Now, at the current price points, that's not crazy outrageous. You basically have to pay $400 to $500 to get 2 million ex Libero tokens. Okay. However, that's only getting you the base bare minimum compound bonus. In order to get the top level compound bonus, you need 30 million ex Libero tokens. Put in perspective, to 30 million ex Libero tokens by my current math would be, if 1 million right now is $200 and you need 30 of it, right? So 30 and then $200 is what? $6,000 and a little bit more. That's fine. But now that means only the whales are going to be getting that. And very few people have whaled up or quote aped in to the point that they would have 30 million of ex Libero, even as it dipped. because they're not sure when it's going to recover. Like this structure might make sense to me if we were in a bull run. I don't know that it makes sense to me in the bear period. And you're wondering, well, why does that make any sense? Because right now, when there's this much red for this much period of time, people are not sure if it's ever going to recover. My theory is that people are not going to be spending that much money getting back into this business while it's still in the red. So yes, there are whales that have over 30 million. I've seen them, but now you're rewarding the whales at the expense of everybody else. If you were to somehow tie a burn to this, right? We're going to burn one Libera for every time you do the compound or something. I don't know. To constrain the inventory, now you're helping everybody. I don't think that's there. So then I looked and said, oh, let's combine bonus. Let's see what that's looking like. If you have both X Libero and X Libera, you get 2 reward systems. It doesn't say if these thresholds still apply. If it's still 30 million or the whatever million, 12,000 or whatever, it doesn't say if those apply. I'm assuming that they do. Well, that's, again, enriching the whales. Nobody else really gets any benefit off of it. That's fine. So then, as I'm looking through the FAQ, my eye goes to this automation. They talked about the automation auto compound. Quote, investors can enable disable automation at any time. Here's the problem. There's nowhere on here that specifically calls out automation that I can see. The only function you have is the ability to compound or the ability to claim. Compound simply rolls what your profits were back into the project. That's fine. That's what they want you to do. I said before that they're describing it in the context of a game. The way they've built this is they want you to compound. They basically want you to keep compounding, compound, and they actually put framework around what you do. So, quote, the object of the game is to collectively survive and benefit everyone as long as possible. There's a gimmick that they wrote in here. Compound for 6 days and claim 1 day a week. This will increase the investors, quote, this will increase the users' investment at the same time increasing daily yield earnings. Tried and tested by several projects. What they want you to do, and they baked it into this, quote, game, is they want you to keep checking on the site, do the compound each day without missing one. If they say down here, quote, the player must not compound before the timer reaches 24. If you compound earlier than 24, you will not have the compound bonus. On the 6th day, there's no compound bonus. Users should take profit on the 7th day. There's another segment, which I don't see immediately, but I know it was there on the previous version of the site. If you miss one of the compound days, then it resets and you have to start all over again. Thus why it's being described as a game, because it's designed for you to go and take an action. But there's, again, nowhere on the site I can see that calls out automation of any kind. Now, if it's assumed, I don't think it is, but if it's assumed, I think that should be spelled out, but I don't see that it is assumed. I don't see where you would have the automation in play. And maybe that's all for the good, because the automation charges you an extra 20% for each compound or harvest. So it basically just keeps taking away whatever profits you would have made if you automate. The only way to really make money is to manually come to the site, manually do the compound, make sure it's done every 24, and then take profits on the 7th. I don't see that there's any automation in what I see on the site anyway. And there's that risk that if you did find some automation, they're going to take 20% of it. And if you don't do the automation, but you don't time it right, then you may miss it and it's going to reset, and then you'll miss some of the compound bonuses. So tying it to a game was my biggest concern in what they were doing and why they did this. I understand, but I don't necessarily agree per se. They even said, quote, we've taken a lot of best practices from EMP money, drip, and baked beans and added our own sustainability mechanism. I want to talk about the so-called sustainability mechanism because when I went to Dex Tools the moment that this launched and decided to see, did this have a positive impact on the price of the chart for Libera compared to where we were? Now, mind you, yesterday we were at about $1.45-ish, somewhere around in that neighborhood. And All of a sudden, we went down to $1.35. That's fine. We went down to about $1.35. There we go. Go ahead and run that again. $1.35 off 145. Well, that's a problem because that only happened when this launched. Is that a sentiment shift of people where they didn't like what they saw? Did something else happen where we saw this dump off when this thing launched? Because this is right when the miner launched. All of a sudden, we saw this dump off of Libera. I think this should concern people because we don't truly know why there was a dump off. We don't know why all of a sudden when this new fancy shiny comes out, there's these mass sell-offs. And these are not bot sell-offs. These are humans that were selling quite a bit of money, and it hasn't even gone anywhere. This is a lot of sell-off. I would be concerned, if I were the devs, as to why there's so much sell-off when they launched a new shiny. Because chances are, sentiment is harmed, not even just because of the mining, but because it doesn't look like it's going to help Libero. It looks like that you cannot access, which is what I was hoping that you could do, but you apparently cannot. I was hoping that you could simply pull in your liquidity pair from the existing Liberator and just simply run it over to the miner. You can't do that. So I called out on the previous video that I did about Libera that it felt like they wanted you to just continually buy, right? Because you have to buy more to create this pair. And then they have the zap. And I don't think they fixed the zap issue where it looked like the zap was doing sells. So if people were zapping Libero, it would continually hurt the Libero price. When I looked at the graphs again, this would seem to be confirmed by the fact that the Libero chart took somewhat of a tank roughly around the same time that this Libera Miner launched. Can only be that people zapped out some of their Libero over to this business, or that they sold because of sentiment. My summary thoughts on this, I understand why they had already announced it. They had to go forward with it. They had to do a thing. I got it clear as day. Understood. It feels to me like this was not well received from what I can see, except with the group of people that already were familiar with baked beans, drip, and so many others that had similar mining mechanics. And that's what they wanted, was to mine multiple, because now they have multiple passives, right? Those people would jump all over this. Your outside of the bubble investor doesn't care about this. They're looking at their Libero, wondering when it's going to get served. They're questioning their Libera, wondering when L-Bank's going to show up. In my opinion, and it's only my opinion, it feels like, again, they announced it. They had to go forward with it. They felt like it's what they wanted to do. I think there's concerns from the community. I could be wrong, and people can feel free to let me know if I got it wrong. But I'm reading the sentiment of the graphs to tell me that people aren't too happy with what's been launched. I'll leave you with this one point that's my greatest concern with this business. Under the compound bonus, and everything you have to do to get the most out of this, 50,000 Libera Binance USD liquidity pair. That's well over $100,000. You get 200,000 ex Libera, and of course Libera's price is going down, so it doesn't really do you much good there. 30 million Libero, and again that's about $6,000 to get the 30 million ex Libero. And then the basic compounds, and then the referrals. They're trying to pull all these separate streams in order to entice you to go all in on this one. For those that like this, the baked beans, the drip, they like that. This is probably gold to them. For those outside the bubble, it feels like they might have turned people off. My theory. I'll tell you what turned me off. It is an infinite loop of money printing. I don't like that they put that line in there. It bothers me that they put that line in there because that's exactly what it is. However, if you go back to Libero and some of the concerns with Libero raised by the community and the DAO that they did, they called out the problem that, quote, and I'm paraphrase, I should say, they didn't see a reason to print more Libero when nobody's buying. So if we accept this to be true, then I question why it's a good sales pitch to present something as a, quote, infinite loop of money printing when we've already admitted that that didn't work for us on Libero. That's why I don't like that line, because it says this is where we want people's money to go. And if we're doing it because we expect that Libera will make a dent in Libero because there's burn activity, I don't see that happening, because we're doing it off of liquidity pools. Doing it off liquidity pools, as I understand it, it's not doing the burn. So they're not doing it off straight Libera, which would presumably initiate burns and then help Libero's constraint. So I question how this benefits Libero. It all goes back to Libero. I don't like seeing new shinies that are not going to benefit Libero, because at the end of the day, Libera can't exist without Libero. Suffice to say, from my eyes, it feels like people are not too happy with this miner that are not part of the group of people that already would have liked that. People that are already in other mining type tokens. They're going to love this. Everybody else outside the crypto bubble is presumably looking at it, and they're not too pleased with what they see, because they're only concerned about their existing investments that are locked in the other banks, and they're dwindling in value. Again, the charts do not lie. There's a significant drop off, significant sales that weren't there before. The volume has doubled, but the sales have increased. That's what we don't want to see. And by the way, for those curious, no, I have not heard from them. I did send a follow-up to Crypto Addict, have not heard anything. At this point, though, with this launch, I don't know where this goes. I don't know if it's long-term successful at all. I don't know if it's going to appeal to multiple people once we're past the Bitcoin crap out. I don't have any answers for you. I can only speak for myself as an investor, because I do have something in each and every one of these. The miner doesn't move the needle for me. I see what it does, and the compounding looks cool, but I simply think that we should fix and focus on Libero before we go to new shinies. Because if Libero is jumping and it's at a penny, it only makes everything else more valuable. But the longer we hold off trying to solve Libero, I think the worse it gets from a sentiment perspective, and people will turn to other projects that are already doing this mining thing in a lot more reliable fashion, which is basically BNB Miner. BNB Miner has been running for the longest time, and it's been doing mining. So then what is the incentive for somebody to do this other than being already in the eco? Well, if they're in the eco and they're happy, I wouldn't expect to see this much in significant sells as I'm seeing right now. That's all I got. I don't know what else to tell people. I personally, and this is only my opinion because I haven't heard from them. My opinion, I'm concerned. It'll appeal to the people that like that stuff. I don't think it's going to appeal outside of the crypto bubble. And I don't know when or if we're going to fix Libero, but I do think that Libero needs to be fixed. And now was the best time to start fixing it. Other than that, I don't know. So if anybody has any questions, I probably cannot answer, but I'll do the best I can about Libera Miner or any stuff about Libera Miner. Please feel free, or forever hold your Binance USD. All right, cool beans, not baked beans, which crapped, by the way. Cool beans. If something comes up, you think of something, feel free to leave a comment. I'm sure one of them will see this and won't be very happy. Oh, there we go. Ashish says, Libero's still in a downtrend. Quote, Libero's still in a downtrend. What you suggest to fix it and get it back up? Same thing I said before. I think the bond is the key. And they're ignoring the bond. I felt like the bond is the best way for Libero to thrive. But for whatever reason, they're not focusing on the bond at all. But the bond is purpose built to encourage people to buy into the product because it offers a discount on Libero, but it helps the stability of the project. It helps the liquidity, and there's 80% that goes into the market to help the exchanges. 20% goes back into the treasury. This is help. This is making healthy, but you're also it's buy. It's just buy, 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 buy. They don't issue enough bonds at all. They're hardly ever issued. I must see like once a week. And then because the price is down, you can buy out a bond for $40. So there's not enough, even if there was demand on it. The second thing, besides the bond, is the Zap feature. I mentioned on a previous that somebody called out that the Zap, this business over here, and this business over here, does a sell against Libero when you're using it to build the liquidity pool for Libera. And then, yes, that's what I'm talking about there. So the Zap is the other part of it. The reason I don't, yes, I want to see the Zap fixed, but the reason I think the bond should be number one is because there's not even enough buy pressure. If you had enough buy pressure, it would offset some of the sells to at least get some green candles to trigger FOMO while they work on the Zap and get the Zap resolved. I think the buy pressure has to be there to encourage people to buy it. Right now, there's no reason to, because all the benefits are going off on Liberator, and now the Libera Miner. Well, Libera Miner is not going, and Liberator, they're not going to do burns. So because they're not going to do burns, it's not going to help Libero because those wrapped tokens are just sitting there growing inside the thing, but they're losing value because of the sells. Like, you see what I mean? Like, you have to stop the sell. You have to trigger buy pressure to get it to where you see some green so that the value of the tokens starts going up, even though they're still wrapped in Libera. Right now, they're assuming that the burns will manage Libero's inflation. Right now, Libero has too many tokens. And so when you go back and you look at the token supply on people, right here, you can buy 3 million of them for $700, 5 million of them for $1,000. When this thing pre-sale launched, $40 got you 7,000 because there was a printing that happened. They called emissions. They've changed it, but it's too late because now a bunch of people are sitting on tokens. But then you also have the sell pressure because of the FOMO red and the Zap. What I'm saying is these large buys are all good, but it doesn't matter because the volume of buys is low. So what would you rather have? 10 people who are spending $1,000 or 1,000 people spending $50? The volume is what makes the thing get the green candles. We don't have the volume. We don't have a lot of people that are willing to buy because of the red. If we use the bond feature and it's strongly advertised, you get a discount on some Libero and it's going at a very cheap rate, and you get a discount above and beyond that, and you help the ecosystem out. To me, now you've initiated this buy pressure first. Then you address the Zap while you're getting bonds out the door. In a perfect world, this is my opinion, in the perfect world, Libero Bank, if you have stuff staked in Libero Bank, so you got ex-Libero, we issue you bonds, and then they're vested, so you can only sell them after 15 days or 30 days or whatever, get those bonds out. Now we can encourage people as a benefit to lock their tokens in the bank as opposed to selling them. That's my opinion. There's a number of ways to slice it. But ultimately, it all comes back to giving attention to Libero, which currently is not the case because they're assuming that Libera will manage Libero at some point, and the change in emissions, now it's just a matter of time, is my opinion. Yep, I appreciate the sentiment. Here's the thing about multiple views or more views. The reason why is because they are essentially shilling a thing. They're pitching a thing. They're convincing you. They're persuading you. I'm not persuading a thing. I'm just calling like I see it. And as far as people not listening to me, a lot of that comes from confidence in a project. It's, I believe so firmly, this got to be legit. It's got to be a thing, like LockPay and Car Salesman 2.0, or SafeFu and Car Salesman V1, or this SafeJet and Car Salesman V3. They convince people that it must be legit. It's got to be legit. It's got to be straight and narrow. And shillers are a very powerful thing because people want to believe because they want to be made rich overnight. That's a gambler mentality. No problem. I don't follow it because I've been in crypto long enough to see that you're just rat racing at that point. Libero has strong potential to recover, but there have to be some changes. There have to be changes in how we do what we do. Right now, they're going down a path and they have a vision, but they suck at communication, number one. Number two, the sites are a nightmare. Number three, they're appealing, they're chasing, right? The miner, the Libera Miner, appeals to people who came from drip, who came from baked beans, who came from EMP money, who came from elephant money. Those are the people that are going to buy into the Libera Miner. They're trying to get those people because they assume that they're whales because they think it's a quick fix. Where I don't agree, I want to fix what we already have because we know it should work because Libero got as high as a penny at one point without those people. So we should be able to get back there, but we have to fix the fundamentals first. We can't just chase shinies. And remember, we still have Phantom Libero floating out there. Phantom Libero hasn't been fixed. They plan to do a F Libera deal on the miner situation. They plan to do the F Libera for the liquidity pairs. More shinies. Here's the funny thing. The Phantom side gives you way more rewards than the regular Binance side, and the Phantom Libero still has a constrained inventory. It's only like 1 billion tokens. So that same on the purchases up here, this $700 on the Phantom Libero side would not give you anywhere near the same amount of tokens, which I believe lends itself to positive sentiment, as in we believe our money's going further. Look, F Libero, same $700, only 200,000 tokens, right? They have a bank concept just like them. That's the garbage get book. I don't want garbage get book. I want the actual bank. Where's the bank? Bank. Their bank, if you look at the rewards APY, 20%, 20,000, percent on the rewards, Wrapped Phantom 1,200, and it only has like 1.5 billion in total supply. You're getting enriched much more on the Phantom side than the Binance side. That makes it even worse. Because then what is the incentive to stay in Binance Libero, knowing that it just keeps going down in its price when Phantom is largely stable? But they never built a direct bridge. So because they didn't build a bridge, what do you have to do? You have to sell your Libero, then you have to convert to Phantom for the token, and then come over here and buy. Well, that's just hurting it even more because it's another Libero sell. What they should have done is create Phantom Libero as just Libero on the Phantom network and build a bridge so that people can jump over here if they want to. They didn't do that. So I actually have a bag sitting in Phantom Libero too. In its bank, it gets rewards 3 times what I get on the Binance side, and I only have like $80 in here. That shouldn't be. That tells me that the Binance Libero has just kind of been abandoned, and that's unfortunate in my opinion. I think we should give more attention to it. I don't know why. And so it is what it is. The other thing on Phantom Libero, if you notice how much is locked, it's only worth $120 some odd thousand. There's like millions locked on the Binance Libero side, but yet the Phantom gives you more rewards, faster rewards. Something's wrong. And it's because of the constrained supply. Guaranteed. The constrained supply has to be the reason. A 1.5 million market cap, but yet it's more rewards. Only 1 million in liquidity. That's a fraction of what Binance has, but more rewards. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. I can tell what they're trying to do. I just don't personally agree. I can tell what they're trying to do. They're trying to get multiple avenues of people buying into different things and then ultimately compound it all together. Views on compounded DeFi. I'm not even a fan of compound DeFi and in general. And the reason is because compound DeFi makes assumptions that we can no longer support. In a world of bear activity and bear seasons, especially extended bear periods, compounding breaks. You can't support it because either your liquidity becomes insolvent, meaning you run out of cash, or people stop buying, which means you're not getting new liquidity in there, or your tokens lose value, which means that sentiment's harmed, and then you get FOMO sells. I think compounding makes sense if we were on the bull runs we had in 2021. We're nowhere close to that. So it feels like people are trying to do these compound things in anticipation of a bull run. That's fine. I'd rather wait till we're in the bull run before we launch that stuff. Right now, I would rather see stability. I'd rather see that we shore up what we're doing today. I'd rather see we get our core tokens back on track with basic fundamentals. If Libero did nothing else than just fix its website flow, I guarantee you'd have a better effect than anything that they're building right now, in my opinion anyway. And I appreciate you too, Ashish, for the questions. John R. says, what are your thoughts on the automatic hyperburn being turned off on the Binance side at the same time as the emissions rate was lowered? I wasn't aware of the auto hyperburn being turned off. It doesn't surprise me because right now with the volume so low, the hyperburn isn't really doing anything, and you burn gas. It costs some gas to do it. So they probably, my theory, is that they turned it off because it's just a waste of gas to do a hyperburn when the volume's too low. Like the hyperburn made sense, again, in the bull periods when there was a lot of volume, millions and millions in volume. The hyperburn made all the sense in the world. What happened with the emission and the burn was their thought. The Libero, it would grow normally to account for the increase in holders. So the supply would grow. They would do the hyperburn to kind of help manage a little bit of it. They would do Libera, and Libera volume and activity would initiate burns on Libero to help manage some of it there, and so on. So in their mind, everything made sense, and it might have in a bull period. It doesn't make sense in a bear period. You're creating excess supply, and then the volume's not high enough for the engine to do its job to manage the so-called inflation that was created by the mechanics. Like in a perfect world, you would not have done the mint, but you had to for the rebase. Well, all that makes perfect sense when the volume's sky high. So if it were me, I would have focused on keeping the volume sky high because that's what I built. They did the Times Square the one time. They haven't done it since. I question why, because Libera went to an exchange. They didn't get on L-Bank. I question why. Being on L-Bank would allow Americans to buy the token on the exchange and pay whatever they want to pay. Many Americans don't know about the decentralized exchanges. I think that's harming some of it. I think sentiment's part of it. I think people see more shinies coming up and they're getting frustrated because they don't see that their token's being focused on. I think it's all of it. You talk about compounding. That's the real compound, is compound frustration. I believe. This is my theory, only my theory. Have not talked to them. This is what I see. And then also I support this because, again, Phantom Libero, their rewards are fantastic because it still has a constrained supply. There is no Libera yet. They plan to do that, and I hope not, but they plan to, but it's constrained supply. There's no Libera in the way. It still has emissions as far as I can tell, but the supply is still constrained to the point they've not needed to do it. As a result, the rewards you get are fantastic on the Phantom side. The other thing on Phantom, when you do the compound, they call it compound, it's not, it's a buyback, but when they do the compound, you pay no gas. When you do claiming, you pay no gas. On the Binance, you still pay gas. So that's also part of it that I think is hurting people's sentiment. That now to claim your reward, you're paying all this gas, and then to do the zap, it's gas and into the bank, gas. I think that's part of it too. I could be wrong. Ashish wants to know if F Libero is still valuable. Today, F Libero is more valuable than the Binance Libero. Today, it is arguably at this level APY, it is arguably valuable. I can tell you that from what I can see across the industry, there seems to be a sentiment shift, in my opinion, from Ethereum, partially because of the delays with ETH2O, but also just Bitcoin and the iffiness of Bitcoin, the Phantom network, the Polygon network, and the Metis network. All three started having some movement, positive movement where people are shifting their apps over there. We're seeing more tokens launched, certainly on the Polygon network. We're seeing more kind of, and Kronos, we're seeing more go away from Ethereum for their token launches. And there's a lot of Binance tokens, but they don't last long. We see that as well. I can't say why they created Libero the way they did. All I can tell you is that for now, today, it has way more value in the APY and the rewards than the Binance side. I can't tell you why that is, other than it's a constrained inventory right now for today, and they're not doing. There's no Libera yet. It doesn't have the same complexity, so it's a simpler structure, and maybe that was by design. I don't know. So if anybody's interested in Libero, it is valuable for now. How long that lasts, I can't say. The only difference, the big difference, Libero staking, the Libero bank, gives you access to the airdrops that they do, which is Binance USD, every month. If you don't care about that, Libero is going to get you much more rewards for the passives by far and away. But yeah, discontinued Hyperbird does not surprise me in the slightest because there was no reason to do it with the volume this low. I just wish they would take actions to get the volume back up as opposed to focusing on Libera so much as they did. I think they could have gotten Libero back on track using L-Bank launch for Libera and that volume spike, and then just change strategy on Libero Bank, get the bonding back in play. Like, there's a lot of things they could have done that they didn't do. Yeah, and Ashish, like I said, the warning is it's profitable today. Everything's subject to change, especially because the team is making changes. They have already announced at some point that they want to do an Libera. I just can't tell you when that'll happen. I can't tell you if they changed their mind. I know nothing. But they are at some point planning to spin back over to Libero and do something. I don't know what that is. Today it is profitable. I would argue much more profitable than the Binance side, which is strange. John wants to know, do you see Libero rebounding once the market improves? There's always going to be some upward. So let's theorize. If Bitcoin gets back to where it should be, which is minimum 40K, if Bitcoin climbs, you will see some recovery of Libero. The challenge with Libero is the sell pressure. So the sell pressure is triggered partially by the zap and what we believe is the issue with the zap and the fact that it doesn't sell every time you zap. But also there's a general sell pressure in Libero that doesn't make sense, where I theorize people are just selling off their Libero rewards. So that's not going to stop because they're still issuing those Libero rewards. To me, I'm not confident that Libero will ever get back to its glory days because of all the other shinies that they created. Because now the focus is largely Libera and the Libera Miner and the Liberator, and then later Libera. It feels like that's their focus. To me, the only way you can fix Libero is to stop the direct distribution of rewards, of Libero rewards, from all these different things. What I said is, I would want to see the Libero required to go into Libero Bank, forced to stake it for at least 30 days, so that people aren't just instantly dumping it when they get it. Until they do something about the rewards, I don't see that it's going to ever get back to its glory days, no. It feels like what they're pivoting to, and I could get it wrong, but it feels like what they're pivoting to is you accumulate your Libero from whatever, and then you would wrap it into Libera, even though you get ripped doing so, or you would zap it into one of these other things. Like, it's basically a means to an end instead of the core token. That's what it feels like anyway, from my perspective. Murger. John wants to know about if I looked at yield nodes. I've heard of it, not looked at it. No, I have the only nodes type of token I've ever looked at is Strong Block, which I looked at ages ago. That video is on the archives. And again, I saw fundamental issues with it. My high level opinion about the whole nodes trend, I think it's too early. Similar to the compound, the rush to compound and the rush to mining, I think it's too early. I think we're losing fundamentals. I don't know that these will last the long term. Maybe they will, but I've never been impressed with any of the nodes type tokens in my personal opinion. So, but yield nodes specifically, I've never looked at it because I was avoiding nodes type tokens because I don't personally see anything about them that's appealing from my perspective. Brutal. You're welcome, John. And you're welcome, Ashish. And again, I wish I had more information, but I've not spoken to them. It's their project. They're going to do what they're going to do, regardless of what I have to say. I'm just an investor like everybody else. I see what I see. It feels to me like this appeals to a certain target, which are trying to poach from the drips of the world. Just like, Libero was designed to poach from the Titano of the world. But I don't think we ever finished with the poaching of Titano for Libero. I don't think we finished that mission. I would have rather seen that we finish that first before we create more shinies, because my gut, and I have no evidence, and I'm not stating it as absolute, I'm saying my opinion is that this is harming investor sentiment. Can't say for a fact 100%. And for Ashish about the contact, so it's a long story. Suffice to say that one of the people in Telescam did try to contact me. We are a legitimate business, so we don't work in Telescam. They have to work over email, so they did. I gave them the email address. They emailed me. I emailed them back. She said she never got it. I know she must have, because I know how Gmail works. Crypto Addict did reach out, and I went back and forth with him a couple times. He was going to pass the contact over to the devs. Didn't hear anything. I sent a follow-up yesterday or today, this morning. Haven't heard anything back as of yet. So, was there contact? Yes. I'm saying that I haven't heard back from them after our last contact has been made, which, like I said, was either late yesterday or this early morning. I believe it was late yesterday. Have not heard back since. And again, mind you, when I say hear back specifically, I'm referring to the devs. I've yet to hear from the devs, to be clear. I've heard from Crypto Addict, but remember, Crypto Addict isn't one of the devs. I haven't heard from them yet. I believe Crypto Addict's doing the best he can. I did send that follow-up, haven't heard back on that yet. But, it is what it is. And I don't know about the other gal. I haven't heard anything from her. They have a vision. It's obviously they have a vision. I can clearly see what they're trying to do. I just don't personally agree with it, the strategy, because I think they're trying to poach from different types of projects. The Libero was trying to take from Titano. Okay, we didn't finish that. I don't think we finished it, and I would have gotten Libero to the point that it was unstoppable in taking those people. Seifu comes along with the car salesman, and it takes some people away. I would have fixed Libero to take those people back because we knew it was going to crap. And I think that's where it fell short. I believe, my own opinion, I think they saw what Seifu was doing and how much money was dumping over there. And they said, okay, this Libero thing is not going to work and we need to build something else. And then they do Libera to get on exchanges, which is fine. but they promised different exchanges, and we only got the one that wasn't going to move the needle, which is DigiFinance. We didn't get LBank, which would have helped a lot of this. I don't know why, and they may not be able to disclose, but the challenge is that meanwhile, you got all these other projects spinning up that are taking more people. You know, whether it's the lock pay garbage, the point is they're taking people, the safe jet people, because there are some people that they don't invest in multiple projects, they just go to the next shiny. Okay, this lock pays here, and it's promising this ADM, and I'll just dump all my Libero and go over there. They don't believe in balancing money that way, because many of them are only putting like $100 into something, hoping, crossing fingers that it goes 10x, and then they'll take their money and go to something else. There are some YouTubers that do that. They only buy into a meme token to build money to go back into Ethereum or Bitcoin. And so that's probably part of this too. There could be people that are dumping out of these side projects to buy into Bitcoin, buying the dip because they think Bitcoin's going to go back up. That could be part of it too. That could be some of the red. But that's why I said that I would have fixed Libero, because Libero's passive, when at its peak, was untouchable, absolutely untouchable. And we've lost that. And I don't know how you regain that sentiment. Now that it's gone so far down the weeds, I don't know how you regain that, but that's how I would have done it, is to get Libero back on track where it's unstoppable in the passives. For what it's worth, for what it's worth, come on. Seifu's in the crapper as well. However, Seifu still has significantly more volume than Libero or Libera. Actually, both of them put together. That means there's still more people interested in projects like Seifu than the Libero financial ecosystem. Like, volume is what's hurting them right now. Is there's not enough volume. So it doesn't matter what you launch. If nobody's using it, what good is it? Titano has about the same volume as Libero and Libera put together. That's bad. Because Titano, I looked at its contract, and its contract is garbage. And despite the fact that there's significant dumps, they still seem to have more volume than the Libero ecosystem. So it's possible that people are simply trying to buy off the dip of Seifu because they believe that Seifu is going to jump back up to 330 a coin, and selling their Libero for that, because the volume of Libera and the price of Libera started to tank when they launched this miner, which was unexpected. But when I looked at the fact that there's only 300 some odd people in the miner, then it makes sense that the only people who would buy into this would be people that already know about it and are already interested in it, from Drip and Baked Beans and Elephant Money and all these other ones. Those people, this can only poach those people. Everybody else wouldn't care. Everybody else is still sitting on what they already have. Most of the people in this eco, they're already in Libera Bank, staked. They're already in Liberator, staked. They're already in Libero, staked. And they're waiting for their stake to bear fruit. Building another shiny isn't necessarily going to do that. So, and I disclose yet again, all of this is my opinion based on what I see as an investor, that it feels like the approach is upsetting certain people and is reflected in the graph when I see significant sells that I would not have expected on the Libera side, fresh off launching that miner. The only reason I'd have this much sell would be people are not really happy with what's going on. Any other questions about this? Any of this? Hopefully that's helped folks best I can, as nothing more than an investor, mind you. And by the way, if I do hear from them I will absolutely update you because there's some disclaimers and things that I would say. But as of yet, that has not occurred. So let's see what happens. And then when I do hear from them because of this situation, I'm now concerned if it's possibly too late. I hope not. Or that they're not willing to consider any changes. I hope not. We'll have to see. All right, folks, let me go ahead and grab something to eat because it's been a long day and my endeavors got that mixed thing again. So let me go ahead and get something to eat. And then, of course, I'm going to get my current episode of Crypto Talk Radio uploaded to the podcast and out the door now that we got our zaps all set up. There's the Jeff Capital. Welcome, Jeff. And holding is all you can really do, especially if it's in the bank. Cool. This will be posted here shortly. And then if you do think of something after the fact, just leave it in the comments. I will catch it when I review comments after everything posts. Thank you, everybody, for everybody who dialed in live. And then those coming after the fact, I'm not making any sort of statement as to what to do. I'm making recommendations because I'm an investor who sees graphs moving in the wrong direction and it feels like sentiment might be getting harmed. And I'm more concerned about getting the graph back on track. I'm not really into shinies. I think that right now we need to work fundamentals. And the easiest fundamental we can fix is the site because the site is confusing people. I know that. We can work on that while we're in the bear season. Now's the right time to do it. So we can clean up the site and make it easier for people to get on board and make it easier for people to understand how to do this. Because I think you can use that as part of the sales pitch. As we simplified our process, we got it clean. I would create one bank that can trade all of this in one bank. I wouldn't do 3 different sites. I think it's too confusing. I would simplify it all down, and then I'd figure out how to get the supply of Libero back down to something more reasonable. Figure out the bank structure and the bonds issuance and encourage more buy pressure and then fix the zaps. That's what I would focus on. I don't know that the miner is going to have the effect you think it will. Maybe it will, and I'm way off rocker. All I can tell you is, just to be candid and clear of why I believe what I believe to be the truth, let me see if I can pull up the nonsense referred to as drip. I don't know that I can because I know it's a Binance token. Perhaps I cannot. That's Dripper Finance. I don't know if that's it. I think it is. Maybe it is. Let's see. I don't think that's the right one. Nope, that's not the right one. I know that's not the right one because it's the different Logan. It's Drip Token. Where's Drip Token? I know it's a Binance token. It's got to be a Binance. Or maybe it is an ETH token. I don't know. I haven't looked at this one in years or months. Feels like years. Where is Drip Token? I don't even see it in the list anymore. Maybe DexTool said screw you. Oh, there we go. Okay, I don't know why I had to do that, but whatever. Whatevs. Drip Token. Drip Token is one of the inspirations of the miner. And I want to show you why I feel the way I feel about the miner. That right there is why I feel the way I feel about the miner. Drip Token, for those that don't know, is essentially an MLM. But if you don't do the MLM and you just trade it as a thing, it can't sustain what it's doing. At some point, it's not going to work. And that's the main concern I've got. As well, Libero's own documentation says that mining is short-term and not sustainable, and that bonds are the long-term and that's the future. But then we're doing mining, which is short-term and not sustainable. Like that's the reason why I question the priority of doing it, and I don't think it's the right answer. And again, we'll have to see if anything turns around. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me get some food because now it's like dinner time, and then I get the podcast out. Podcast will be up to cryptotalkradio.net here shortly and distributed all to major platforms. And then, of course, check out our Luna Burn X, because at least that one has some green to it, unlike Libero. I don't mean to say that to pitch it. I'm saying if you want to look at a green chart as opposed to Libero and take a break, that's one to look at, however long it lasts. All right, folks. Thank you for everybody's questions. I appreciate you. Appreciate you joining me live, and everybody after the fact. Like I said, I'm just one man. I'm just a one-man band. Heath Slater, WWE.